Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. This is our last show of the week because tomorrow most of us will be gorging down large amounts of a rather large fowl and some dressing and some other things. That's going to be the theme of our pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
All right. So when you go shopping for these things, and I do the shopping and I do some of the cooking, what do you see around Thanksgiving time that you don't see the rest of the year? Or what do you eat at Thanksgiving time that maybe you don't eat the rest of the year? And one of mine is kind of a interesting one. It's candied pecans. Now, maybe if you live in Atlanta, Georgia, you get them all year, but we don't see them all year around here. We see pecans all year,
Sure.
but we don't see candied ones. And I like the candied ones as a little bit of like an appetizer. They're sweet, like when you're sort of messing with the cheese and crackers and whatever else you're going to do while you're watching football. That's actually a really good one. And I like the texture. I don't get walnuts because dogs are allergic to walnuts. Actually, it kills them. If they're not allergic, it can kill them. It gives them. So I don't like to have walnuts around very much. It makes me nervous. Especially if you have them out on a table and you have dogs. Don't do it. Pecans are fine, but that's one of the items. There's a lot of them too. I mean, stores know what to load up on and what times of the year, but what in your world, in the Jello world, what is it?
Well, it's funny because I don't order, and this is the first and most basic thing, because everybody with Thanksgiving, it's not like Christmas where some people will have lamb, some people will have ham, some people have turkey. Everybody has turkey on Thanksgiving, and we don't have turkey ever other than on Thanksgiving. We don't
never the whole year.
Never the whole year. And I don't even buy turkey as cold cuts.
You don't even eat a turkey sub? Nothing.
No. Turkey is sort of like a delicacy for Thanksgiving. Now,
I've never heard anybody not like eating it. If they eat it, I get if you're vegan or you don't like turkey, but if you eat it, like that, you're not eating it the rest of the year.
Now, maybe it's the fact that, usually we buy this massive bird and it's 25, 28 pounds or something like that. And there's so much leftover turkey that for the next 3 or 4 days afterward, we're eating turkey sandwiches. And at that point, you get so sick of it that you don't want it for the rest of the year. And Funky, it's not an Anchor Bar turkey.
Oh.
Because that's a turkey that will be murdered.
Well, I mean, they all are.
Yeah, well, yes, it's true.
But I will say this. Now, I don't buy mine frozen. I don't. I buy mine where, like, the way Trader Joe's has them is, of course, they're kept, like, in a flash freeze, but not in, like, a deep freeze. So it's not like a solid hunk when you get it.
Yes. Now, okay, tell me, because we were having this debate in our...
And I get it brined, too, by the way. Yeah. I don't put any salt on it. I get it pre-brined. I found that is so much better.
Now, okay, we cook the bird traditionally, like in the oven,
right.
I know that a relative of mine told me that for some event that they had with a bunch of friends last week that they deep fried the turkey.
Right.
And said it tasted just like the regular turkey, no difference in taste. I don't know if I would ever do it because I've seen the videos of like people
burning down the house.
Yeah, burning down the house, or the turkey exploding because the idiot put a frozen turkey in hot oil. But I'd be curious to try it if it was actually successful, to see what it tasted like.
Yeah, I would like to try it. I would cook it myself because the two big problems that to me are like a pain is you've got to get the turkey fryer, and now I've got to fill it with like gallons of oil. And after that,
oil, apparently.
Right. So, and then after that, what am I using that oil for? I don't want to throw it out. I'm not that kind of person. I'll want to use that oil again. Like I would filter it and try and use it again, but it's an awful lot. So it's like, it's a lot to worry. It's a lot to deal with where I could just put it in the oven and you put it on a pan. And you know what? It's a lot easier on the cleanup end. So I'm going to take the lazy approach and say, I'll never do it. Yeah. But if somebody makes it, I certainly would eat it.
I don't know if peanut oil is I doubt it's flammable. Obviously, oil isn't flammable in and of itself. But you could throw, because once it solidifies after, it's right. Like you could throw it into like into a fire pit or something like that, and it would just evaporate. It would just burn.
Sure, you could do that.
Yeah, but yeah, you can't throw it in the garbage because it just like it leaks out everywhere, or it's just gross. But
sometimes I'll if I have extra oil like that, and you don't want to put it down the drain, obviously. Sometimes I'll put it out in like a dirt pile in the yard.
And here's the weird thing. I don't know if I said this on the previous show, but I'll just say it again. I always loved, when I was a kid, loved the stuffing that was inside the turkey.
Yeah, see, I never did that.
And now I realize, okay, this is the stuffing that has soaked up the fat and the juices from a turkey for 5 hours in the oven. Yep. And now like the thought of tasting it makes me sick. So like thankfully we have stuffing or we have dressing that has not been put into the turkey that we cook separately, and I eat that, and everybody else can go to town on the stuffing. I won't. And I'm not a dark meat guy. I'm a white meat guy.
You're a white meat guy?
I don't like it's too greasy and too
Oh my God. Dark meat is just like, and that's the other thing. What I don't like about like these butterball turkeys and everything, besides what they do to the turkey, and I won't even go into but there's not enough dark meat on them. The fact that they try and manufacture extra white meat is ridiculous. Dark meat is so much better.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the white meat. And see, I have to explain to people. I'm weird when it comes to the way I eat things. I have my own method. I have my I do not like to pour gravy all over my plate. I like, you give me a couple slices of turkey, I will have the gravy in a separate little container,
like a gravy boat or something,
or in a little cup, so I can dunk the turkey in.
You're dipping it then. It's like a French dip.
Like a French dip, but I have the turkey on my fork, I dunk it in there, and then I eat it. I don't pour it all over my plate because I don't like gravy on my mashed potatoes. I like butter on my mashed potatoes.
No, I could do butter or gravy, but all right, let me ask you this basic question. So let's say one year you're invited to the White House for Thanksgiving dinner. Yes. Would you eat it that way at the White House?
Yes.
Oh my God, they would all look at you like you're a Martian.
I don't give a crap. I don't care. First of all, you're making me go to the White House with this guy in the office.
No, that's why I said in a couple of years. May not be.
Okay. So if it's something, I mean, I wouldn't want to make a spectacle of myself.
But you would be by doing it.
But I just can't. I don't like gravy poured all over my plate. I'm sorry. Somebody said in the chat here, Brussels sprouts. Okay, I can't eat Brussels sprouts.
I know. Now I was going to bring that up actually because somebody had that on their list. I so dislike Brussels sprouts. I think most things in the world you could fry and I'll eat them because I love fried food.
Because Brussels sprouts are basically small cabbages,
and they're disgusting.
Yeah, I know. I've seen
cabbage, at least in a egg roll with the duck sauce and everything, you can get past it. Fried Brussels sprouts, no.
I've seen a couple recipes where they either, I don't know if they deep fry it or they do something else that said, okay, I would give that a try, but if it's just like steaming it or whatever,
I don't have quick access to a bathroom. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that and okay, everybody makes the green bean casserole.
Okay, so let's talk about the green bean casserole because it's not on my menu, but I know down south it is, and I went to school down south and certainly ate it. The interesting thing is why now, from what I see from the green bean casserole is, you have your green beans. Yeah. You have your like cream that it's infused.
Cream of mushroom soup usually.
Oh, it is the cream of mushroom soup. Okay, so we use that sometimes in tuna fish.
And they sprinkle the French fried onions.
French fried stuff. I don't think they need the cream of mushroom soup. I would just put the crumbled onions on it, and I'm good. I don't know why they do the cream, but I will tell you, in my family, we do the cream of mushroom soup with like tuna fish and like cheese. Mac and cheese, and actually it's an interesting taste, but it's a pretty good taste. I'm not a mushroom guy. I will literally pick the mushrooms out, but I don't mind the soup part of that. So I'll eat green bean casserole, but we don't make it.
Yeah, and the last thing, and then we'll get to the hockey. we used to make yams, and there is a difference between yams and sweet potatoes, but we used to make yams, and it was basically cutting them into pieces like you would make fried or roasted potatoes, like in the little sections, and they would be with brown sugar and maple syrup. They were really sweet, but they were cooked so well in the oven that it wasn't stringy like a sweet potato is. That wasn't bad, but now everybody whips the sweet potatoes.
Well, they all whip them, or in my family, they made sweet potato pie with marshmallow. But the problem is, I would just sort of eat the burnt marshmallow and leave most of the sweet potato.
Yeah, my one condition on the sweet potatoes is whip it to death with so much cream and so much like cinnamon and whatever else that you can barely taste.
See, now, all right. So now when you get fried sweet potatoes, right? I could eat those, but I have to have like a mound of ketchup because it's not as good as a regular French fry. I know. I do not want them cinnamon sugared at all on a French fry. I don't.
Yeah, but it's not a French fry. It's a sweet potato fry.
Whatever. I don't want the cinnamon sugar. It doesn't belong there. I don't know why it's there.
I don't know what restaurant it was, but they had sweet potato fries, and they gave as the dunk, because usually for most people, it's ketchup, and I can't stand it.
Nobody's eating those plain, by the way. Have you ever seen anybody?
No, nobody's eating them. But the dunking thing is either honey or like a honey butter.
Honey butter, maybe.
But
then I'm getting back to it's just sweet potatoes in the end, and I want to forget it's sweet potatoes, and so that's why I just load it up with ketchup.
If you hate it, then there's no.
I don't hate it. It's better than just having regular potatoes sometimes. So as a dietary thing, I'll say, all right, you know what? I'll eat this because they make them good here. That's all.
Yeah, Bartica says the only thing I really want is a mashed potato volcano full of gravy.
All right, so talking about the volcano, hold on, that's funny. So on my Facebook page, I have a picture. Years ago when I lived in the Richmond area, my parents still live down there. When Facebook first started, I posted a video, and it's back up on my page, of the chocolate fountain. And it's from that video is from like 2008.
What was it, from Golden Corral?
No, it was at a very good hotel. Like this was like a $30, $40 a plate Thanksgiving, right? So we're eating it, and I look at that chocolate fountain, and I was just like, no, because for one thing, it's all recycled chocolate. It's not like fresh chocolate coming out each time, right? Because it's going round and round and round. You don't know who sneezed in it. You don't know who dipped what into it and walked away. Like there's just so much. It's out in the elements. You
don't know who shot snot rockets at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's out in the elements. It just, I can't eat it. And to me, it's the grossest thing. Don't have them at your wedding. Don't have them at your bar mitzvah. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people like me out there. They're just afraid to say it, but a lot of people walked right by it. They were like, no.
Blah. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, November 27th, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology, looking for my tea. There it is.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. And AJ Foyt just drove by Russ's house. Okay, we'll start with the latest, which there hasn't really been any change since we had our show yesterday around 3:00.
No.
There was a report from Jeff Merrick yesterday in the afternoon that Bill Peters had been fired. It looks like it's going in that direction, so I can understand that report. But yeah, I think that the Flames are doing their due diligence in terms of I would think, Russ, that right now it's not whether he's going to be fired or not. It's whether they have legal recourse to get out of his contract for his conduct. The thing is, the conduct did not occur with the Flames, so I don't know if there's an out for them there when it comes to his contract. So I think this is basically, are they going to be on the hook for the $2 million the next couple of years? That's what
I think that's really what is going on here is the legal wrangling of what they owe and what they don't. I think like anything else, just come to a quick settlement. Mm-hmm. I just think that is in the best interest of everybody. I just saw the tweet where Rod Brindamore, said that it for sure happened, the two issues that are in question. And so,
well, he was talking about the one issue. He's talking about
he said the two issues.
Okay, so I mean, from what because I was Sarah Siv who tweeted what he was talking about was the Michael Jordan kick.
No, but he said it for sure happened. The two issues that are in question.
Okay, I mean, I don't know how Brindamore would know about the Akeem Alou situation, but unless but okay, well, but continue. I'm sorry, continue.
No, it's just, and the point is, like, Rob Brindamore, I covered a fair amount, so I consider the source very good on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I consider Sportsnet a good source, putting the quote up, right, that I was reading it from. So this is it for Bill Peters. Like, he will never coach again in North America. He won't. Nobody's going to hire him. Now, Mike Babcock, like we said yesterday, he's Mike Babcock. At some point, it might cool off, and he might get another job. Bill Peters isn't getting another job. I really would be shocked if he got one in North America. Now, if he got one in the KHL or overseas, I would not be shocked. But I don't think it's going to be here.
And I don't know whether he'd even get an assistant's job.
I don't think anybody would hire him as assistant. No, because, again, it's not so much – I know everybody thinks first it's a PR nightmare. I don't think it's that. I think it's every time you see that guy behind the bench, this is the narrative that runs through your head when you see him. And he's not going to be able to shake it. He's not. And the interesting thing was, and I saw this brought up on Hockey Central, is will he ever give quotes about it? Will he ever talk about it? And because we all would like to hear his explanation, but we haven't heard anything yet. So that'll be interesting whether that ever does occur or not. Some think it will never happen. I think at some point it always happens, and quotes always seem to come out from some interview because somebody always wants to tell their side.
Right.
But right now, this is pretty overwhelming against him. And so he's not getting out of this with his job, that's for sure.
Right. And the situation is that Jeff Ward, who's their assistant coach, will be behind the bench for the Flames tonight in Buffalo where they play the Sabres. As for what happens, I mean, I think they'll probably end up taking the next couple days. I don't know what Calgary's schedule is after that. But
they'll play tomorrow. And like we always say, if you want to bury something PR-wise tomorrow, do it on Thanksgiving when half the Americans who might be covering are eating turkey, and at least you're only getting Canada covering you.
Yeah, but they're a Canadian team, and that's the thing.
I know, but it doesn't matter. It's
right.
But
they're
a Canadian team.
I don't think we're talking out of school here to say that and more than likely he is done.
No, I don't think it's talking out of school at all because I just don't see a way out of it for him when now, again, someone like Brindamore corroborates it besides the players. Like that's, at this point, Brindamore is an equal, and when somebody like that says, I could tell you for sure it happened. I give Rod Brindamore great credit for this because from what I've always seen from the guy, he's a really principled guy. Yeah. And I covered his whole Stanley Cup run when he was still a player in Carolina. And I didn't cover him when he was on the Flyers. It was all Carolina. And found him to be just a very honest guy. And so I think he felt like because of the association, he wasn't going to give Bill Peters cover here.
Yeah, Flamester says that the Flames are in Ottawa on Saturday, so another Canadian market. So I will bet that this investigation is over with by either tomorrow or at the latest on Friday.
They don't want to do it Friday because then they're in Ottawa and doing a skate in Ottawa. You do it tomorrow, and then you don't really have any more questions to answer on Friday because he's not there.
Right.
For me, that's the best way to handle it. But again, we'll see how they handle it.
Yeah. Now we'll take some questions at the end of the show. We've got some games to talk about, and an article that Russ wrote about the 2017 draft. Which, if you look at that draft, it's very interesting how it's unfolding.
It's amazing. I mean, I would say some of it is surprising.
Yeah. I mean, we drove from Buffalo to Chicago in for that draft. At least one of us was conscious.
Oh my God. It was literally the worst 24 hours of my life.
And it wasn't because he was driving with me. Although I was the one who had almost a near death experience because I'm convinced that was gunfire that was at our at our Airbnb. By the way, we had an Airbnb and we found out that it was on the south side of Chicago.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. Hey, welcome to Murder City. Thank you. Okay, let's start with the games. And the biggest highlight of the night was the Boston Bruins thrashing, and that's being kind.
I had to turn the game off. It got that bad.
Of Les Habitants, 8-1.
Why do you have to lay that in there, Mike? That you had to put a little cherry on top, didn't you?
Of course. Stick it in when you get a chance. 8-1. Bruins beat the Habs. Habs have lost 5 in a row. Carey Price gets pulled. Apparently, a fan at the Bell Center, at Centre Bell, threw a white towel over the glass. So let's just say this. I have consistently said that the Canadians are a bubble team this year. That they could make the playoffs. They were what they were last year. Now, remember, last year, Price had a really good season, a bounce-back season, and Shea Weber comes back after missing, I think, 30 games and got into double figures in goals.
Yeah, and he got the only goal last night.
They got a better than expected production out of Max Domi, a better than expected production out of Thomas Tatar, 30 goals out of Brendan Gallagher. Everything, Kotkaniemi as a rookie played really well. Everything went right, and they still missed the playoffs. And my contention was that A, not everything is going to go right like it did last year, and B, the bugaboo that team has had over the last few years that they've constantly cited, which was goal scoring, they didn't have enough. So I predicted them missing the playoffs. I thought they'd be.
I mean, I did too, but they still have a chance because
they have a chance.
Nick Suzuki is turning it on. I think if Paling stays healthy, he'll turn it on again. Those two are the 2017 guys. But that is their hope. But last night, Carey Price was hung out to dry. Mainly because of the power plays, mainly because did you notice, like, if you basically passed the puck 3 times, you had an open man against the Canadiens defense. Boston figured that out pretty early, right? Like on that DeBrusque goal. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Richard Petrosky in the chat says, I took the Canadians plus 6.5. How did I do? No, okay, I'll just say this. The injuries to Drouin and Byron are killers.
Oh, they're killers. I mean, Byron's a big player for them. He is. And it's doubly so. I mean, okay, even if they scored 5 goals, they would have lost by 3. Right.
So if Carey Price has a .811 save percentage, which apparently he's had in recent games, they're not going to win anything. They need Carey Price to be what he was last year at times, which was the Carey Price of old. And if Carey Price is an average Carey Price, and I saw enough comments on Twitter about we're paying $10.5 million for 7 years of that. Yeah, okay. Well, if he doesn't perform up to that level, then yes, you're in trouble. I still think he's a great goaltender, and I think from time to time he's going to play dominant like he has been in the past, but you can't depend on him to play that way all the time. This is not Dominic Hasek circa 1999.
No.
You need to be able to score goals in certain instances to be able to win games.
And obviously they scored on Kincaid when he came in. So
Right. I think they pulled the Price after 5. On the Bruins side, the Bruins didn't have Bergeron, and still Marchand and Pasternak. I mean, Pasternak has, I believe it's 23 goals in 24 games.
Yeah, they just lit him up, man. And Pasternak is just on an all-time pace. Literally an all-time pace.
Yeah, and Marchand. And did you catch?
What did Gretzky do? 50 and 50?
50 and 50, yeah.
He has a chance to do 50 and 50.
Well, Bossy did 50 and 50. Didn't
Gretzky?
Gretzky?
Bossy did also.
Didn't Gretzky do 50 and like 39 or
Oh,
something?
no, it was 50 and 39. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Right.
He was 50 and 39. Bossy was 50 and 50, I think.
Right.
Now,
Now,
he has a chance to do 50 and 50, though, in this era.
Now I'm trying to. Let me dig out the quote here because last night in the second intermission, TSN interviewed Brad Marchand, and it's typical. I mean, you could make a case for Brad Marchand being the most valuable player in the NHL last year because he scored over 100 points. But there's no doubt in my mind that he's the most valuable troll.
Oh, no, he's number one troll in any sport. In any sport.
Yeah, because in the second intermission, he was interviewed by TSN, and he was like, these fans are loud and obnoxious, and this is it's always nice to silence them. Just going down that road, and I'm like, oh, wow. He has a gift. His gift is just being an annoying troll, and a very talented hockey player, here you go. Brad Marchand, this is Joe Haggerty's. It was on NESN in between periods, so he wasn't doing it with TSN. He was for the hometown team, but still. Yeah. This is our favorite rink in the league to silence. By no means is this game over. It was 6-1 at the time. We've seen, we've seen that already this year, but they're loud and obnoxious here, and it feels good to silence them. So, the Conor McGregor dance.
Because they're always so kind and thoughtful at TD Garden.
Yes, yeah. Oh my goodness. So
in comparison,
he never fails to entertain. Now I saw some of this game, unfortunately, because it was the battle of two of the bottom dwellers.
For a while, it was the only one on.
Right. Yeah, it was on. Actually, the funny thing was, it was like I caught the Bruins Canadiens game on the Game Center Live, and NHL Network. Even though they didn't have a game, they were showing a lot of Minnesota, New Jersey.
Right.
And now the Wild win 3-2, and all 3 goals come from Jordan Greenway, who up until this point had 0 goals in 16 games.
I am so mad because I tried to trade for him a week ago, and I got this close to getting him, and now I'll never get him.
Yeah, well, come on. Everybody has a hat trick and then disappears for another 50
No, but he's having a decent season. It's just that team is just starting to pick it up a little bit offensively, and they're not blowing that lead may give them a little confidence. I will say this, though. There was a play where Bruce Boudreau, I think, tried to challenge a goal, and they wouldn't let him. And it was a no goal, and certainly the league had to apologize after to him. And I saw the post game about it, and Boudreau was like, "Well, I didn't need the league to tell me it wasn't a goal." I love Bruce Boudreau. He is by far the best interview of any coach when you want to get to something like that, because he will just lay it out there. And they're lucky. The league is lucky that Minnesota did win that game, because again, it would be another situation where they would be like, well, how did you call that a goal? And I don't even know all the specifics because I didn't see the play.
Right.
But clearly, Boudreau knew, and he couldn't do anything about it. I guess they didn't let him challenge it. I think they maybe said it was unchallengeable.
Yeah. And
all the unchallengeable things. If it's not offsides and it's not goalie interference, anything else pretty much?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, you know what it was? I think it was a high stick. I think it was a high stick in the zone, to get the puck into the zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Was it a batting in or something like that?
I think it was like a batting in. Yeah. And you can't challenge that, I guess.
In the game, the first career start for 23-year-old Capo Kakkonen.
I know. And we weren't confused enough.
Yeah. It's like, okay, so now we're going to have Capo Kakko and Capo Kapanen.
The only thing I can say
it's Kahkonen, so it's Capo Kakkonen.
I know. It's just, I hope he pronounces it differently so we can get past this.
Conan, maybe. Hopefully.
I want to just say this, though. The closest to this is when I used to be in the hotel business, we used to work with an airline called Icelandic Air.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's last name ends with son or daughter. Everybody. So we literally would just throw the keys on the counter and just say, figure it out. You can't figure it out. Everybody, has the same. It's one last name or the other. It's just the prefix before that is what matters. And so it got too confusing trying to check in people that way. It was pretty fun.
Thorson. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other game last night, which I watched a little bit of it as well, a 3-0 shutout for Corey Crawford and the Blackhawks over the red hot Dallas Stars. Now Dallas, I believe, was playing.
That's a big win for the Hawks. I give it to them.
Dallas was playing their third game in 4 nights, so understandable that they might be a little gassed. You see, I saw.
I think they interviewed. I saw an interview post game with Dickinson, and he didn't want to say that they were gassed, but you could tell that was the case.
Yeah, Brandon Saad, Patrick Kane, and the immortal Connor Murphy with the goals.
Now, Kane is 10th in the league right now in scoring, so he's starting to pick it up. But what I saw being pushed out there by the Chicago media was, and I think this is just recently, the tandem has like a .920 save percentage recently.
Mm-hmm.
Because, in this hot streak, whatever, and I think it's 15 games. I want to say it's through 15 games. I mean, look, if they continue to play like that, they could prove me wrong and a lot of people wrong, but their defense makes it harder over the course of a whole season to have them play at that level all year, both goalies, but they are capable.
Right. They're 10-9-5 right now with 25 points. That's 4 points behind Winnipeg. 2 points behind San Jose, 3 points behind Colorado.
Think about that. 10-9-5 is technically under 500.
Correct. They've lost more games than they've won.
But it sounds better 10-9-5. That's the whole hoax of this point system.
Right, which is a conspiracy dreamed up by general managers and coaches.
Yep.
So, all right, let's talk about that 2017 draft because I remember it well. I remember the interviews previous to the draft at the Combine in Buffalo. There was a lot of talk about Nolan Patrick or Nico Hischier going 1-2, who was going to be the one, who was going to be.
And I had Patrick ranked 1, and I actually still stand by it. I do. I mean, these guys are, Hischier's 20, going to be 21 in January. Patrick is 21, just turned it in September. These guys are still young. But some of the other guys that I had ranked, certainly I didn't do as good a job as I probably could do, but some of them I think have overplayed what they would do. Like I had Heiskanen 10th. That's bad.
Right. Well, let's say this before we go through this.
Yeah. And this doesn't have to do with the article. I just found my old ranking.
Right. Normally, my rule of thumb, and I'm not like I'm somebody obviously since I'm a writer and reporter covering hockey that is very interested in these kids as they're drafted and learn more as they go through junior, as they go through the American Hockey League to the NHL. Usually my rule of thumb is 4 to 5 years before I'm really willing to make a judgment on are they a bust or are they, were they overrated or underrated, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, but a
couple of these guys are no doubters now.
Right after 2 years, you can say where they're trending, but it's not impossible that Nico Hischier is going to be a really, really good player. I think he's a really, really good player right now.
He's a really good player. It's just he's not the best in the draft now. He's not going to be.
Right.
And so that was part of the article. So like Elias Pettersson, as an example, I had him ranked 8th. Mm-hmm. Not bad. That was actually pretty good. Again, at the time, I remember some Vancouver writers didn't like him because they saw that he was so skinny. They figured at 8th, he's a little bit of a project.
Right.
What they didn't see was that the skating and the high-end skill was so good that it would supersede, because he still needs to get stronger, but it would supersede some of those things.
Now, Nolan Patrick, number 2, obviously – everything is up in the air right now because of his injury situation with is it concussion related or is it migraines? When is he going to come back? I mean, I don't think he's I can't say Bartica says he's enigmatic and he's looking like a bust. I don't think you can say that because it's health. It's not, attitude. It's not, I think right now, it's very possible in 2 years that Nolan Patrick is a really good player.
Yeah.
Right now he's reached a crossroad. This is sort of like
he played over 100 games. He showed the flashes.
Right.
And he had 13 goals each of his 2 years. It just, you wanted a little more, but he's young. And so we'll get into that. But as an example, like Cale Makar, I had him ranked 13th. He right now has 25 points in 23 games. His first 23 games. Like that is just unbelievable.
And I can tell you, because it's, like I said, very recent in my mind, because it was only a couple years ago. The talk at the draft was that Colorado taking him at 4 was a reach.
Some people said that, no question.
Yeah, that him playing in a lower level junior league.
Yep.
In Canada.
Yep.
Was it the BCHL?
The AJHL.
AJHL. Yeah. And there was always some skepticism. Was it Fabro and Yost were both out of like lower level?
Torres was BCHL.
Right, but I think that one draft, I thought both Yost and Fabro were BCHL guys.
But still the AJHL is even below.
It's even lower. Right, exactly. Yeah. So that was the reason for skepticism. And then he goes to college. He's unbelievable, and now we see what he is right now. So I mean, that was Joe Sakic hit a home run on that one.
Yeah, he right now to date, Chris Drury is the only guy to ever win the Hobie and the Calder, and it looks like if Makar stays healthy, he'll be the second. And if you think about it, that's a pretty incredible feat. Because of the timing of everything. Winning the one, coming right into the, whenever you come into the league and you're good, it doesn't mean it's the next year, but in this case it is. So, and I think in Drury's case it was also.
Well, okay, Cameron in the chat, who we've had on the show before.
Oh yeah,
the AJHL is actually pretty good. I'm not saying it's not pretty good.
No, it is pretty good, and I've talked about it, Cam, and I think it was just a week ago where I said they have a certain amount of overagers, so that does make it a little harder to play. But at the end of the day, it's still, to me, just below the BCHL. It just is.
Yeah, and if you would have asked,
in my estimation,
and if you would have asked me last year before he turned pro, after the Frozen Four, I would have said there's no way that Miro Heiskanen, based on the way he played, wouldn't be the best defenseman in this draft. And now, a few months later, Makar,
overall, right now, you can make the argument he is, because Makar, it's a small sample size,
right?
And Heiskanen's been playing top pairing for 2 seasons now,
right,
and every assignment, and it's had the most shifts. But again, he still has 50 points in 108 games. Like, that seems to be secondary in everything else he does. And it's just, again, an amazing thing to see a guy like that in a league that's this hard to play defense, to be able to think the game so quickly that he could do that. The other kind of surprising things, and then people should check out the rest of it in Sportsology, the other kind of surprising things in this are, I could name you so many other names. Cody Glass, Nick Suzuki, Netchis. They're all off to great starts. Thomas, Hedel, Middlestat. I feel like they're all getting better, and they're off to good starts too.
Well, I was,
you know, you got the next level guys there, and there's still guys. Studnicka just broke in last night.
Well, I'll just go through them a couple quickly, because we heard the Elias Anderson trade rumors. So, again, I'm not ready to cast final judgments on.
No, me neither.
But, it's not a great sign that he's being bandied about as potential trade. Now, it might be just that the fit with the organization, and maybe
the fit.
Right. Middlestat is coming under a lot of scrutiny here, Russ. And it's because the Sabres are struggling. It's because I think they after last year, they really didn't address adding a number 2 center. They had Johansson playing second line center out of position. He got hurt, and now it falls back on, now it's like Evan Rodriguez is playing number 2 center, and Middlestat centering the fourth line, at least he did in recent games. And that, for an 8th pick overall, for somebody who was as impressive as he was in the World Junior here in Buffalo, it's disappointing to Sabres fans, and they're starting to get on.
Yeah, 21. It's like, give it a rest. It's like you can't be at that point yet. There's other things wrong with your team where it's easy to pick on Middlestat.
Yeah.
But just as an example, because you brought up his name, Evan Rodriguez, right? What do we think the age difference is there?
Evan Rodriguez is like 24, isn't he? 24, 25?
Yeah, let's see. I think he's 24.
Yeah, I think he was a teammate of
26.
Oh, he's 26. Okay, that's even. So he must have been a senior at BU when Eichel was a freshman, or at least,
yeah, I think
they played together on the BU team.
They did. But he's 26.
Yeah,
that's a 5-year difference.
Right.
Like we can't just put too much pressure on a 21-year-old. At this point, it does not matter where he was drafted in the draft. His age is still his age, right. And his time will come. You could see the kid can play, but you have to give it time. Some guys don't break it right out of the box. They just don't. And
and I'm not going to go through every pick, but if you just go down the line here, Anderson has been back and forth between Hartford and the Rangers.
Was he rushed? Someone asked me on Twitter, why did the Rangers draft him? And I told you at the draft, and he was not going to be my pick, but I told you Anderson got picked because of his readiness to go to the NHL because they wanted NHL players.
Right, which I think was a mistake. Mittelstadt has played every game after leaving college in the NHL. I had a little bit of a discussion with Mike Carrington from the Buffalo News on the radio a couple of weeks ago about them sending Mittelstadt down to the AHL. He doesn't think that's necessary, but if he continues to struggle at the NHL level, I think that they should consider it. Owen Tippett, Rasmussen, Velarde, all the next 3 picks, all of them are in the American Hockey League. Velarde just came back from
he would have been in the NHL if he didn't have back issues.
Right. Carolina did the right thing with Neckish. They didn't rush him. They kept him.
So let's talk about him. He's 20. He just came up. He's got 16 points in 24 games. Like, why didn't he come up last year? Why didn't he go? Like if fans. I mean, they didn't need him. This guy will continue to get better. He will.
Yeah. I mean, he won a Calder Cup with Charlotte. I mean, he was. Suzuki's playing well for the Canadians. Cal Foote is in Syracuse right now,
and he'll be up next year. I think
he'll be up next year because they have a bunch of unrestricted free agent defensemen. So he'll.
You got to remember that that's a deep team. It's hard. It's a veteran team. The coach likes veterans. Yada yada.
Now Brandstrom is playing for Ottawa, and I think is going to be a good player. Valimaki has the ACL with Calgary, so that's going to set him back. Liljegren, honestly, Liljegren, at the time when the pick was made, I was like, this is a home run because the guy was ranked in the top 2 or 3 midway through the year, then fell because of mono, because of not making the World Junior for Sweden, being with a few different teams in the SHL and lower leagues. I think he's played now. This is his 3rd season with the Marlies, and I think everybody looks at the fact that he's a first-round pick. The Leafs are bad defensively, and he's not on the Leafs yet.
Yeah, but they want him to be a complete player, and
that's the whole thing. He was a bottom pairing defenseman in his first year, won a Calder Cup. Then last year he was on a top pairing, matching up against best lines in the AHL.
And let's even go the year before he even hit the Marlies. He was on 3 different teams. They kept passing him around. Right. That didn't help his development.
No, it didn't. And I think that's why they decided to take control of his development, and why I think he will be an NHLer. Now the question is, will he be an NHLer for the Leafs? You got to remember, Liljegren was a Mark Hunter draft pick.
Right. So it is possible he could get included in a trade. Yeah. No question.
This is a Kyle Dubas organization, and not to say that they don't value the Mark Hunter picks, but you always have more of a association with your own picks rather than the picks of the previous administration. So now I'm sure Dubas may have had a hand in it. He would, he was part of the organization, and he's been GM of the Marlies. But I'm saying, and now Sheldon Keefe, who coached him for 3 years, for up until last week, you'll get a chance maybe to see later this year or early next year whether Liljegren is a Leaf or not. Just quickly, Vakanainen has played with the Bruins this year.
I think he'll be a regular next year.
Well, if they decide not to re-sign Krug,
right?
And we don't know how long Chara is going to keep going. Josh Norris is is still in the NCAA, correct?
Yep.
But is doing really well, and he's going to be with the Sens.
Yep.
Robert Thomas won a cup last year. Cheadle is doing well. Yamamoto hasn't had a chance to really play. I mean, he played a little bit last year, but I think they're smart to keep him in the American Hockey League and mature.
Yep. Jason Robertson's close. I mean, that's another guy with a booming shot. Like, he's really close for Dallas.
Yeah. And he was a second round pick, wasn't he?
No, first round. Oh, no, early second. Sorry.
Early second.
I had him ranked 24th. You're right. It's early second. Nick Hague, he's playing.
He's an early second rounder. I mean,
early second. Yep.
You know, I mean, Joseph has already been traded.
Right.
He's with Pittsburgh now.
I think Vesalainen will be a player. I do.
Yeah. Paling. Everybody saw what he did in that last game against Toronto last year, and he's in the AHL or he's up with the Canadians. It's either one or the other.
I think Ratcliffe will be a player.
I'm a little concerned about Ottinger.
I'm not concerned. He's a goalie. Sometimes it will take 4 years.
True.
I'm not concerned. I'll tell you who I'm concerned about. I'll go through a little list here. So I got it right, I think, with Valimaki. I had him ranked 9th. I had him ranked higher than most. And if you think about it, one of the big reasons that Calgary's defense is hurting is because they don't have that guy. He was really, really good for them. So I think I got that right. I had Elias Anderson 20th. That's where I ranked him. So it just shows you the difference of where I had him ranked compared to where the Rangers had him. Also, like Nick Suzuki, I had 25th. Maybe I should have adjusted that a little. We'll see. That's a good one over time. Look, I had Gabe Velarde 7th. I still believe in the kid. One of them where it's going to be questionable now maybe is Klim Kostin, but he is still a decent player. He just defensively is what the problem is with him. And so I think he'll be up next year, but we have to see what he can do. But if you look at this draft as a whole, it is amazing, the talent in it. But the big question is, did some of these guys get rushed? And, and that's the big question.
Yeah. And I mean, bottom part of the bottom 5 of the first round, and then we'll move on to some questions. So start putting them in the chat. I mean, Morgan Frost just came up, and I think he's done pretty well in the few games that he's played. Yokoharu has played pretty well for Buffalo. They like what they got. Nylander, they swapped Alex Nylander for him. He's doing okay. Playing with Saad and Taves. So you think they're trying to make that work?
Oh yeah.
So, but Yokoharu has been pretty decent for the Sabres, so they like that.
Yep.
Tolvanen. I mean, there was talk about Tolvanen making the Preds 2 years ago, and now
I had him ranked very high, but he doesn't play defense, and until he does, he won't make it. Now, does he have the other NHL tools? I think he does.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this year, he's played 20 games for Milwaukee and only has 4 goals and 2 assists.
Because he's got to play a complete game. It's taken more time for him to do that. Right. And I think that's something, like in this draft, like I had Paling 14th. I think Paling will come on like a house on fire now. I do.
Right.
So,
goalie FP, yes, it's balmy in Buffalo, Frank. Who are the top 3 prospects that are property of an NHL team but not in the NHL yet? Okay, I'll name
one thing.
Yes.
The last thing I want to say about this draft,
yep.
I had Eric Brandstrom ranked 41st. And I got to tell you, right now, I may not be wrong on that. I may be just a few spots wrong because I don't think he's the superstar or star player that everybody thought he was.
Yeah.
We'll know in a couple of years. We'll know in 2-3 years.
Right. Now, I'll throw out the name that's obvious. It's Kaprizov.
Kaprizov's number 1. Like, I don't think anybody touches that. You know what? I'm going to give you just 2 others. It's really hard. Like, off the top of your head, it's really hard. But, if I go Igor Shesterkin and Ilya Sorokin, the 2 goalies, I'm not that far off.
No, I'm just looking at the last couple drafts here and seeing who hasn't played in the NHL yet and say, whether they're the like. I mean, I would say that like Bowen Byram.
Oh yeah, Bowen Byram is another great name. But I'm going to give the goalies because I think the goalies are very close. Sorokin's coming over next year. Shesterkin, I think, will be up this year. Kaprizov, there may be something brewing with a rule change, by the way. An AHL salary cap kind of thing where you could all of a sudden put more money into the AHL. There's some rumblings about that. I hear rumblings about that.
Is this like the anti-Marlies? Like because
no, not an anti-Marlies. This is more like an anti-KHL. Where like, hey, we'll be able to pay you more than $70,000, so you can come over and play here, and you don't need to play there.
Okay, I mean,
they're losing teams, right? The KHL's losing teams.
Right.
You raise the standard, or at least make it in the AHL so you could pay like 3 guys up to a couple $1 million. You'll get more players over here.
Well, I mean, this is the situation because players on entry-level contracts, especially for, like, say, first-round picks, the contract is boilerplate. It's $925,000 for the NHL salary. The max on the ELC is $70,000.
Right.
Now, after the ELC, then there's flexibility. Usually you'll see the AHL pay boosted to say 100 or 125, or they get a one-way contract where they'll get paid 700 up in the NHL or down in the AHL. The Leafs, that's what the Leafs did. The Marlies have a ton of one-way contracts. Guys like, Tyler Gaudette and Jordan Schmaltz and Ben Harper. They're all on one-way contracts. So they have a high salary level.
Sure, but what if they make a rule that you could pay 3 guys like $900,000 a year? That would get some Russians to come over.
Yeah, but I think there'll be some pushback from the PA in the sense that they're going to think, okay, well, if you're going to make an exception for those guys, then the guys who are being drafted out of,
well, you make it 500 or 750. You make it just below what the drafted guys are doing.
Are you saying like 1 or 2 guys on each team, like an exemption of some sort?
Yes.
I don't know if the PA. I mean, these players will be members of the PA, so that but. I'm saying?
PA larger, and that should be something in their favor. And I do think they would get more players over here.
Let's see here.
But anyhow, it could just be talk. We'll see.
Funky says Caulfield is more sure bet than Zadina. If you're talking about Caulfield being one of the top 3, he might be.
He might be, but I think it's a little early for me to say that for Cole Caulfield. I'm glad Zadina is up. Again, Zadina never had to play defense. So now that he's playing some defense, let's see if his offense starts to shine. I mean, again, just because he was drafted where he was drafted, I'm not going to throw dirt on Zadina.
Right. Davy Jones says, who will be the next head coach domino to fall? And
I mean, we don't know.
NASCAR 427 says Bill Peters. I mean, gee, I think the odds on that one are like 1 to 9. It's like Secretariat in the Belmont.
Yeah.
No, I think –
which is another morose thing from my.
No, Secretariat.
I'm thinking of
a ruffian, for Christ's sake.
Ruffian is what I was thinking. Yeah,
Jesus, please. I don't want to think. I don't think a ruffian and foolish pleasure. Oh my God, never mind. No, I still think you have to go back to the pre-Babcock list. And the funny thing is, like, everybody's saying, well, who's going to lose their job first, Hines or Boudreau? And it ends up being Babcock. But
right.
I still think Hines or Boudreau are the top 2.
Hines, I still think, is in trouble.
Yeah. Let's see.
I don't think Boudreau is in trouble because right now I don't think there's anybody they can get that would get any more out of that team. And I think Guerin's got to have like a year to look at this team, So I think Boudreau, I think he's safe.
Yeah. I don't know much. No, I don't know much about this player. I was just looking up as we're because Flamster's asking about the Flames Russian goaltender. His name is Artem Zaguladin.
I may have notes on him. I don't know off the top.
Yeah, I honestly, you're stretching my area of knowledge here. I mean, I've heard the name. I keep our Cap Central for Hockey Buzz, and I know the name, but I don't know much about him. Russ would probably know more. But
no, I mean, right now, go on to the next question, and I'll see if I can find any notes on him.
Well, Bill C's saying, who do you guys think the Bruins could target in a trade for a second line right winger? Well, Eck on his rumor chart had Toffoli, and Toffoli does make sense because I don't. Toffoli would cost them a lot. And I think he'd cost them maybe a second-round pick or one of their, guy like a Sinisian or a Zaboral or somebody like that they can afford to give up because they have so many prospects in their organization. So I think that wouldn't be a costly maneuver for them. And I mean, has Toffoli slowed down? Sure, but I still think he would be. I don't know if he's second line, but maybe he allows somebody else to move up and then he takes over, say, a third line spot.
Yeah, I think he's an option. If for some reason the Rangers don't keep Kreider, he would love to play in Boston.
Sure.
I mean, that's a no-brainer. He could play either side of the wing.
But he'd be costly.
But I mean, his contract's up. So I mean, again, it's not like it can't be done.
Right.
I think there's a point where, because of the amount of prospects that they have, that it could be done. So,
NASCAR, is Carey Price going to be traded to Colorado now? This is not Patrick Waugh part 2. It's not happening. Sorry.
No.
Okay, let's see here. I thought Greenway had a hat trick yesterday. Somebody said he didn't. That's what, again, I didn't watch all this game, but that was the reference that NHL Network made. But I apologize for that critical error, folks. No, one note I did see, just sort of piggybacking on what Bill C's question was, I did see a report that the Bruins are drawing closer to possibly re-signing Charlie Coyle to a long-term extension and Chris Wagner to, I think it was Ryan Whitney that reported it. So
I could see Wagner.
I could see Coyle. I could see Coyle.
I don't know. I'm still a little hesitant. I want to see a good full season, playoffs, everything out of him before I decide on that.
Well, what that would signal to me, though, is if they're signing those two, then I don't know if they're signing Krug.
Well, no, I really don't think they're signing Krug. I don't. I haven't thought that for a while. And I just think when push comes to shove, he is not going to be willing to give as much of a discount as they're going to want to have him take.
Right. I mean, he's saying, I'll take a discount. I don't want 8. I want 7.5. And they may be saying, we don't want to pay you anywhere over 7.
Right.
So that's no discount from my point of view. So
I think there's a sticking point there. I do actually. Yeah, right now I got to look back on sheets. I don't have anything on the other Flames goalie, but I mean, Coyle, he's got 14 points in 24 games.
Right.
I mean, what are you paying him? I mean, it's not like he is not the same player. He's I don't even know if he's the guy who got 56 points one year. I'm not even sure he's that guy.
I mean, if they're giving him long-term security and they're buying unrestricted years, I mean, do they know that maybe Backus is retiring at the end of the year and that cap hit is being?
But it still doesn't mean you should pay this guy.
Well, right. It depends on what you're paying him. If they like him as a top 9 guy and they think he's going to be quick enough over the balance of those 6 years, then are you willing to pay him 5.5, 6?
I mean, he had a really good playoffs. He had 9 goals, 16 points.
Remember, Marchand is making 6-1. Pasternak is making 6-6. 6 on that team is a lot different than 6 on Toronto.
Right. I might pay him 5. I'm not paying him more than that.
Yeah, but you're not going to get him for 5 for 6 years. I mean, even if he's from the Boston.
And I'll get him for 5 for 3 years. I mean, that's better for me. Again, if I go and I cost this out, 14 points, 24 games. So if he stays on that pace, what are we talking? We're talking right around a little over 50 points again. He might equal that 55-point mark again. I'm not even sure he'll get that every year.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, would you pay him $5.5 million, $6 million on a long-term deal?
The only way I would do it, I mean, the thing is, the Bruins have a habit of getting these guys for much less. So I don't think 5.5 is much less. I think it's sort of market rate for him. So I would say if you get him at 5.1 or 5.25 for 6 years, fine, because you're paying everybody else. And you're opening up cap. I mean, remember, in the next 2 years, they're going to probably, Backus is going to be gone. Rask's $7 million comes off the books. They probably want to re-sign him because I don't know where they get a goaltender otherwise. Krejci's contract is up. I mean, a lot of money is dropping off.
Yeah, but they have other young players that they're going to have money for too.
They're going to have to pay McAvoy. Now, the thing is, that's why I said if you're signing Coyle and you're signing Wagner, then that's an admission that you're not re-signing Krug. And
I got news for you. In 2 years, they're going to probably want to lock up Studnicka too. That kid can play.
Maybe, very, very. If they got McAvoy on a bridge deal, they'll probably get Studnicka on a bridge deal. That's
when does Rask's money line drop out? Because
I think he has one more year after this year.
Right. I mean, they're not going to keep Jarro Halak as their number one. They're going to have to pay Tuukka Rask. They're not really paying Tuukka Rask right now.
Yeah, I mean, Backus has another year at $6 million,
that was such a bad deal.
Well, we should go.
I'm happy for the Dogs that are getting fed with that money.
I mean, I have to say, and somebody should write a book on this. I have to say that the free agent class of 2016 could be the worst free agent class in the history of professional sports.
Yeah.
Because every single one of those deals was a complete and utter friggin' bust.
When does Charlie Coyle turn into David Backus? That's what you have to ask yourself.
Right, but the thing is that right now he's not David Backus.
But David Backus turned into the David Backus we see in 1 year. He's older, I'll grant you that, but you never know when it's going to happen.
Right, I mean, they signed Backus.
Tuukka Rask is going to get paid, Mike. That's the issue.
They signed Backus at 31 years old. And Coyle is 27 now. So, and he didn't have a great quarter of a season in the regular season, but played well in the playoffs. And this year has 5 goals in 24 games. He's, if they sign him for a 6-year deal and they're paying him below 5 or around 5, then I think it's a good deal for them. If it's
what's Bob's contract?
I'm sorry?
Bob's contract with Florida?
$10 million times 7 years.
Tuukka Rask going to want $10 million times 5 years.
He's not going to get it. Not from Boston. He's not.
Well, I mean, then I think, and he might take 9. He's making like 6.5 now, Mike. He's not going to take $7 million. This whole thing, I'm telling you, this is going to blow up because right now I know Boston media. Ty Anderson was number one trolling this yesterday. Hey, we're only paying $9 million for our goalies. That's not going to last.
Yeah.
It's not. It's going away.
Yep.
And so that's why you have to be careful about what you pay Coyle because now I got to pay Rask and McAvoy a lot of money.
The fringe benefits of benefiting from the stupidity of your current assistant general manager, John Ferguson Jr., could be coming to an end very soon there, Boston. All right. Well, we will be back on Monday. We'll regale everyone with our stories of eating turkey and dressing and pumpkin pie
and whatever.
I'll save you a slice of pumpkin pie, Russ.
I'll throw it at you.
For us going. I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching.
I'll throw it on your gray shirt.
This is blue.
That's not blue. It's gray.
Blue. This is blue.
That is not blue.
It is sky blue.
That is not sky blue.
It is. I swear to God.
Whatever.
And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.